Well, that's no doubt up there for the worst loss of the season. The Kings just getting absolutely blown out by the Phoenix Suns. If you get blown out by the Suns, what do you expect to do against anybody else in this league, especially coming up with a very tough schedule to end the season for the Kings? And it sucks because it feels like we're living the same season and the same disappointment over, but just twice in one season. One with the first roster, then we make trades, and then it feels like we're doing the exact same thing with the next roster and making all the same mistakes. And we're just gonna sit here and bash our heads against the wall, hoping that somehow we break through. And, we're probably gonna make the play-in no matter what. I mean, the Suns could catch us. But right now, the only thing, the only way that the Kings are holding on to even just a play-in spot is the dysfunction of both the Phoenix Suns and the Dallas Mavericks. And that dysfunction somehow being worse than the dysfunction that the Kings are facing right now. We can always say, at least we're not the Phoenix Suns. We may have lost to them here, but at least we're not the Suns, because the Kings versus the Suns, it's two teams that are in such similar positions. Both teams trying to do the same thing, and both teams pretty much making the exact same mistake as each other. At least the Kings have not mortgaged their future doing it, but you just look at the lineups for both of these teams, where for the Kings it's DeMar, it's LaVine, it's Monk, and for the Suns it's Beal, it's Booker, and Durant. Just trying to go all out on one type of player and just put them together and hope it works. And after the Warriors game, I said that, getting Sabonis back probably would help a little bit, but it's not going to make us win a game if we play like we did against the Warriors. And well, yeah, you saw it here. Sabonis is back, and I thought Sabonis played pretty well. And you could see it was nice to have him back. The offense looked better when he was out there, but that wasn't enough because of how poor the Kings were defensively. And it was another game where we had a shot distribution problem. The exact same thing where DeMar and LaVine both just didn't take a lot of shots early in this game, and it wasn't until super late that LaVine finally started to actually shoot the ball and scored like 14 points late in the fourth quarter when the game was practically already over. And it's just frustrating because you listen to Doug Christie in the post-game press conferences talking about how he's going to keep Malik Monk in the starting lineup because we've won games with this lineup. What are you talking about? No, we haven't. Yeah, we've won some games. That doesn't mean it's looked good. That doesn't mean this lineup is the reason we've won games. It's not. The net rating is not good for this lineup. Just look at the numbers, use the eye test. Both of them say the same thing, that this lineup isn't good. And so it's just we're reliving the start of this season with Kevin Huerter. But not even that lineup was as bad as this lineup is. At least when Kevin Huerter was in the starting lineup, he may not have been good, but the defense wasn't as bad as this lineup is. And so I don't get it. Is it that we've had two coaches in a row that are so stubborn? It's hard for me to believe that. And so then it's like, is it the politics that's, it's something else that's keeping a starting lineup change from happening? Because this is just crazy. For the second straight game, the Kings allowed an opponent to shoot over 50% from the three-point line on a lot of volume. The entire defensive side of the ball was just a matchup nightmare whenever we had the starting lineup out there. Because it was like, oh, Malik Monk is guarding Beal, but now he's getting switched onto Durant. Or it's DeMar DeRozan getting switched onto Durant, and then so Sabonis has to switch onto Durant. There's just no switchability in this lineup. And really any lineup with Monk and DeRozan both out there at the same time just wasn't good. The offense looked solid at the very start of the game. I mean, I thought Sabonis was looking good operating the offense, and the Kings were getting good looks. They were missing some. I think you saw a little bit of the rust from Sabonis missing some shots inside, some turnovers, trying to combine with like Malik Monk. And the Kings, they missed some good looks. They went 8 for 32 from 3 in this game. They generated some good looks that they just missed. But I thought the offense was kind of flowing and different guys were getting involved. Keegan had some good looks early on. He looked confident. Zach LaVine had a quick 5 points. The first substitution that we made was Keon coming in for DeMar DeRozan, which was, interesting because usually it is one of Malik or LaVine. And so this time it was DeMar. So trying something different there. But while the offense looked solid, there were still certain guys that weren't really getting involved. Like DeMar just was not involved in that first stretch, and then he got taken out. And so to me, that just says, well, then why are all three of them in the game in the first place? Why do we have to suffer through these first like 4 or 5 minutes where one of them just does nothing offensively and then gets taken out? It's nonsensical to me. And then the Kings offense went super cold in that first quarter. And what really frustrated me about the Kings offense was Zach LaVine, like not being aggressive, but more specifically, him just not being able to use the screen properly. I had such high hopes for the two-man game between Sabonis and LaVine. It hasn't gone anywhere because Zach LaVine just, I don't know, he doesn't want to play off Sabonis, or he doesn't know how to. I don't know. There was a specific play where LaVine's standing on the wing and Sabonis gets the ball and he dribbles at LaVine to initiate a dribble handoff. And everyone else on the Kings understands that when Sabonis dribbles at them, that means you start coming the other way. You come around the dribble handoff, come around the screen, and get going downhill. And that will create good offense. And with Zach LaVine, it could be an absolute cheat code with his speed and shooting ability if he would just come around that dribble handoff hard. If Kevin Huerter could make it work, I swear to you, Zach LaVine can make it work too, But instead, what did LaVine do? He just stood there on the wing. And then, so Sabonis was just like, what are we doing? And he just passed him the ball and then stood there and kind of tried to give him a screen, but LaVine was still just standing there. Took him a while. Then he comes around a screen but doesn't get any separation because he hasn't set the screen up well at all. And so then Sabonis goes out, Valanciunas comes in, and immediately Valanciunas gets called for an illegal screen because, again, Zach LaVine is not taking the screen effectively, and it forces Valanciunas to have to, try to move to actually chip the defender and get LaVine separation. And so it was just a very frustrating game from Zach LaVine because he wouldn't shoot the ball and he just wouldn't take these screens effectively. And the Kings, they just started turning the ball over, allowed an offensive rebound, continuously helped off the strong side, off of shooters. Those shooters were knocking down shots, Tyus Jones being the main guy, but everyone really doing it for the Suns. And I thought Malik Monk had a terrible first quarter, both offensively. He was dribbling around, not really generating much offense, but then also defensively allowing offensive rebounds and not getting out to his guy on the perimeter, not helping. There was a play where Malik Monk is standing at the free throw line and Devin Booker just goes right by him because Keon's chasing Booker and Monk just doesn't switch and doesn't try to help at all. And right after that, Doug Christie calls a timeout and Keon Ellis was just like exasperated with Monk, and Jay Crowder even came over and was just like, you could see, it's like talking to Monk, like, what are you doing? One of the most frustrating quarters of the season, but I think I've said that a lot recently. So, especially in first quarters, the Kings have just been a terrible first quarter team. And it wasn't until a little later on in that first quarter when DeMar finally got his first shot attempt and knocked down a three, then Keon got a steal and was able to take it the other way for a slam, that it felt like we got anything going. Now, the second quarter was much better. But that's been every game. Every single game is following the same script. It's the exact same script. Have a terrible first quarter, fight back in the second quarter, come out slow in the third quarter. You don't have enough in the tank in the fourth quarter to really make the comeback happen. It's the exact same thing every single time. So it's the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. But the second quarter was fun to watch. It was good basketball being played by the Kings in that second quarter. You started off with DeMar getting some mid-rangers. I like the way that Malik Monk went off ball. DeRozan found him, and then Malik attacked the rim from an off-ball position, and that because he was struggling just to find room around the rim. So it was him playing off ball that allowed him to catch and get going towards the rim, and he drew a foul. But though that lineup to start the second quarter was not good defensively because it had both Malik Monk and DeMar DeRozan. It was a million open threes. The amount of times that the Kings helped off the strong side on a shooter really unnecessarily was hard to watch. And the Kings defense just didn't do a good job of scrambling around. And I remember one play where DeMar, he turned it over. And so the Kings are scrambling to get back, but they are able to stop the ball. But then they get set, like everyone's just standing around. But somehow there's a guy just standing wide open, and it's Tyus Jones, of course, who couldn't miss. And so it's those moments where we've seen that quite a lot in the past few games, where the Kings defense gets set. Like they're all standing around. It's not like anyone's trying to rotate. They don't even realize that they're not matched up correctly in transition. They don't realize it. And so it's just that awareness that left the Suns open for three time after time after time, possession after possession after possession after possession. But finally, the Kings started to get into it. Valanciunas got us a couple of buckets inside. Sabonis came back in. There's a really nice possession where Monk and Sabonis played defense really well together, handling a pick and roll, and Malik Monk stopped Devin Booker. Monk also, he just had a great second quarter, had a really nice rebound. The ball finally started to move and allowed Sabonis to find some room inside, and Keegan found him down low to draw a foul. And then Malik Monk started to really get it going. He got it going from the mid-range. Couldn't hit a three to save his life, but had it going from the mid-range and was hitting floater after floater in that two-man game with Sabonis. And it had been a while since we'd seen any type of consistent success for Monk in the two-man game. And so having Sabonis back for him to play with was obviously huge. Keon, of course, had to foul a three-point shooter in the midst of all this because why not? But there's a play where Sabonis got the ball in transition and Zach LaVine's on the wing again. And this time, Sabonis just like forcefully, he forced LaVine to use the screen this time, dribbled at him so quickly, made it happen in transition. Because the thing about LaVine is he's a great transition player. He's great when things are happening quickly and he can use his speed before the defense gets set. But so many times in the half court, he's not using that speed and he's slowing things down way too much. And so it was this moment in transition where LaVine is standing there and Sabonis just dribbles at him so quickly and just shoves the ball into his hands. It's like forces him to actually utilize this handoff and this screen, and LaVine gets downhill and draws a foul. One of my biggest complaints with Zach LaVine, yes, it's this like screen utilization, but it's just him not being prepared to make a play when he catches the ball. When he's playing off ball, he has so many moments where he catches the ball and he looks like he has space, but he doesn't shoot it. And he'll like take this dribble and then he'll step back for a tougher three than what that catch and shoot three was. Or he'll just be standing on the wing and he'll be surprised that the ball is getting passed to him. And so when the Kings offense is kind of trying to get some flow going, then when he gets past the ball and he's not ready for it and he just like catches it and then stands there for a second, it disrupts the entire flow. And so now that Zach LaVine's like been on the team long enough, I'm recognizing these patterns. It was one of those things that I hoped was more he needs to get comfortable, but now that it's been happening for like a month, it's like, okay, maybe that's just who he is, and that's not a good thing. And so the offense had to go through Malik Monk and Domantas Sabonis, and they were just in that two-man game getting things done. And then Sabonis and Keegan started to kind of get a little bit of a flow going together. Keegan from the corner coming around a dribble handoff and hitting a mid-ranger, then Keegan and Sabonis blitzing Kevin Durant out at half court, forcing a turnover. Sabonis gets it ahead to Keegan for an easy dunk. And so that got the Kings within 7. And out of that next timeout, they continued to pretty much do the same thing with Malik Monk getting to his floater. Keegan got a steal on Durant again, and that led to a Keon Ellis and one with Keegan leading that break. That got the Kings within 2, or no, the next Keegan 3, then got the Kings within 2. Monk also drew an offensive foul. He was just doing a bit of everything in that second quarter, pretty much the opposite of what he did in the first quarter. And so the lineup that really got us going again was Monk, Keon, LaVine, Keegan, and Sabonis. And so then again, I pose the question, why are we not playing more lineups like that? It's not a surprise that the lineup that gets us back into it is the lineup that actually balances offense with defense. It's the lineup with Keon and Keegan making things happen defensively for the team, and then the main guys offensively being Monk and Sabonis. And obviously, it's not as simple as that. Sabonis made some defensive plays, Keegan made some offensive plays, but you get the point. The quarter didn't end all that great the last couple of possessions. Malik made about 3 bad decisions, almost turned it over twice, then finally did turn it over on a single possession, and then the Kings didn't get back, I think, because the shot clock was off, so they assumed that the Suns would run it down, but if you just leave Kevin Durant wide open, he's going to take that all day and make it. And then the final possession, LaVine rejecting a screen and driving into traffic and turning it over. But it was good for the Kings to fight back. Again, that's something I say every single game because they dig themselves into early holes every single game. I think the big things for the first half were too many turnovers. DeMar and Zach LaVine combining to go 5 for 7 from the field. Great efficiency, just like last game for both of them. Not a lot of shots. DeMar himself went 3 for 3 in the first half. And so all that tells me is you have this offensive talent that you're just not utilizing, and instead you're getting demolished defensively because you're just trying to put all this offensive talent out there where it gets to the point of diminishing returns. I also think another takeaway from the first half was just Sabonis impacting the game in a lot of ways. It was really nice to have him back. Again, didn't finish all that well at the rim, but was just so impactful in the way that he allowed the ball to move from side to side offensively. And it may have only been 6 games or whatever, but I definitely missed that. And I don't think I realized how much I missed Sabonis just being able to handle the ball and operate the offense until he was finally back doing it. But the third quarter pretty much started how every third or first quarter has started for the Kings recently, although the Warriors' third quarter did start better, but then it got bad kind of midway through. It was a lot of Bradley Beal getting open for 3. I thought in the first quarter, there were a lot of Malik Monk defensive lapses. In the third quarter, it felt like a lot of Zach LaVine defensive lapses. Not fighting through screens or over-helping, again, off the strong side on shooters. I mean, it was open 3 after open 3. And, some of it was them trying to, get Devin Booker into the post against Malik Monk, trying to exploit that size. And so the Kings have to kind of help, and that generates some open looks. And even when Keon came in, they were kind of doing that because they could put Devin Booker in the post against Keon because he's not really that strong. But I thought really throughout this game, but there was one moment that really made me think it was that the Kings needed to stop treating Mason Plumlee like he's Rudy Gobert out there. Go at the guy. And Sabonis did at times, but there was just a play where DeMar could have gotten all the way to the rim against Plumlee and instead takes this awkward fadeaway midi. It was just really weird and missed it. And so I just thought the Kings could have done a better job really attacking Mason Plumlee. And I mean, Zach LaVine's a guy that I wanted to see putting it on the deck and just getting to the rim, making a decisive play and finishing at the rim over Plumlee, but he wasn't doing that. There was a play where Keegan made a really nice pass to LaVine in the corner for 3 in transition, and he had Plumlee on him, not really on him. Plumlee was backed up. And what does LaVine do? He doesn't take the 3, then he takes a step inside the arc, then he steps back for a tougher 3. So the Suns started to pull away because they were just bombing a million threes. Malik Monk couldn't hit an open 3 to save his life. DeMar could, though. He hit a couple of 3s. I also think he had a long 2 in there. And there were just a million times where the Suns would build a lead and then the Kings would kind of try to come back into it. And so there was the Plumlee flagrant 2 on the shot to Sabonis' head, neck area, whatever it was. Second straight game where Plumlee's got ejected. I don't know what he was doing. It was so unnecessary. And then the Kings had some great defensive possessions, and they were kind of just ruined by these little things like Keon kicking the ball with 0.8 seconds when it was just on the ground and there was no way the Suns were getting a shot. Another one where the Kings scrambled, played some great defense, and Keon jumps up in the air and fouls Devin Booker. Keon had a nightmare of a third quarter. He fouled so much All three of his fouls were in that third quarter. And it was interesting that he came in for LaVine, so we switched it up again in terms of who the first sub was. But we had those good defensive possessions that then didn't ultimately end up in stops. And so not taking advantage of those was really rough because then the defense went back to being pretty bad. There was just some really rough defensive possessions where the communication wasn't there. Keon Ellis guarding, it was either Durant or Booker, I can't really remember, but Sabonis comes to double and there's just like no communication. And so Keon is guarding him and pushing him out to the perimeter, not shading him into the Sabonis double team. And so then it's one pass into a three-pointer. And it was turnover after turnover, super loose with the ball. The Kings were constantly in rotation on the defensive side. When they would run out at shooters, then they were getting beat off the dribble and either fouling, or then that would just lead to another drive-and kick for the Suns. Kings couldn't hit a three at all. LaRavia finally did. And the Kings kind of ended the quarter strong with that LaRavia three. Valanciunas had a nice play where he fought for a rebound and drew a foul off of a LaRavia drive where he missed at the rim. And then DeMar hit a long two to end the quarter. But it just feels like we have these very small, nice runs that are surrounded by a whole bunch of bad defense and bad three-point defense specifically. So it's like we made some nice plays to end the quarter and we're still down 15. And it was just more of the same to start the fourth. More turnovers, more allowed threes. Kings got desperate. They went double big, Sabonis and Valanciunas. I'm like, yeah, I'm sure that'll work when the Suns are draining three after three. I'm sure having Valanciunas out there alongside Sabonis, that's really going to help us defend the three-point line. That was just a desperation move. And there's just a really funny play where Sabonis is cutting in from the wing as if he is a wing. And it was super awkward, catches the ball and is driving as if he's a perimeter player. And kicks it back out because it was super awkward. And then him and Valanciunas just sit on top of each other and get a 3-second violation. I'm not even sure who got called for the 3-second violation. I think it was Sabonis, but it probably could have been either of them. They were just sitting on top of each other in the paint offensively. So double big, not working out there. Then Sabonis looked like he hurt his hamstring again. Ryan Dunn kind of threw him. And so that's not great. And Sabonis came out of the game. LaRavia came in and the Kings kind of tried to still make a game of it, going small. But they continued to give up three after three. Monk couldn't hit a three. Zach LaVine finally started shooting. There's finally a possession where Zach LaVine just gets it up top and fires a three. And he hit it. I'm just like, just do that all game. Just fire from deep. He's like, he's thinking too much. You know, he's catching the ball and he's thinking and he's trying to make these plays and trying to create for others. It's just like he needs to fly around these screens and just shoot the ball. He had 14 points. He wasn't missing in that fourth quarter, but he's doing it when the game is already over. So it was fun to see him hit all those shots, but it's also frustrating because it's like now you're shooting from deep. Now you're attacking the rim when you could have been doing that the entire game. And so now the Kings sit at 500 and look completely discombobulated and look like they have no hope. And so do I think a starting lineup change fixes all? No, but you got to try it at least, you know, you got to try something. You can't just keep doing the same thing over and over again. That obviously hasn't worked. And when you have actually had success with Keon Ellis in the starting lineup, and I could say that it was against weaker opposition, but it really wasn't. The Kings looked good against the Nuggets and the Clippers and the Rockets. You're playing the Suns, you know? This is not a good Suns team. And so it's just crazy to me when I hear Doug Christie in some post-game pressers when asked about a starting lineup change say, we've won games with this starting lineup with Monk, so we're not going to change it. You win more games when Keon Ellis has been starting. Like, you've looked better. I don't get it. And the only positive I can really think right now is at least these other teams around us are so bad that we might have a shot in the play-in to actually make the playoffs. But this is pretty much what I thought was going to happen when, you know, all the trades happened. It's like you're just going to kind of slowly end the season, you know, kind of not playing great basketball, and then you're just going to lose in the play-in. And then after the season, we're going to all be asking, what was that all for? And so to try to stop that from happening, you just have to make some of these changes to try to put guys in better spots to succeed. Going through some of the stats, Sabonis in his return played 30 minutes, got a triple-double, 12 points, 12 assists, 11 rebounds, got 3 steals and a block. Thought he played really well, even though he went 4 for 11 from the field. DeRozan, another super efficient game after going, I think it was 8 for 13 last game, and leading the team in scoring. He does that again, except he goes 9 for 13, 3 for 5 from 3 for 23 points, but he had 5 turnovers. Monk, 8 for 18 from the field, but it was 8 for 10 from inside the 3-point arc, 0 for 8 from 3, and he missed 3 or 4 just wide open ones. And he's just been shooting really poorly this entire season, but especially lately. So we need him to find his 3-point shot here. He played 42 minutes, had 18 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, and 4 turnovers. LaVine, just like DeRozan, efficient, 7 for 13. Don't care, need you taking more than 13 shots. And he scored 21 points, and 14 of those were when the game was practically already over. So 7 points in the parts of the game that mattered. That's not good enough. Keegan went 6 for 13 from the field for 14 points. He had some really nice plays like stepping into jumpers, and he's been aggressive shooting the ball. There was one play where just attack Plumlee at the rim. Instead, he goes into this little step back fade. Just attack him, But thought he had a solid game. Off the bench, Keon chipped in 7 points. Definitely wasn't his best game. He struggled with the size of Devin Booker, and obviously like Kevin Durant when he got switched onto him. Also had some turnovers offensively, fouling a lot in that third quarter. It's not like it was a terrible game for him, just not his best. And then the rest of the bench, Trey Lyles was out due to an injury. Don't know if he would have played anyways. But we went 3.5 deep. Devin Carter played 6 minutes. Didn't really do much in those 6 minutes. And then the other 2 guys, Jake LaRavia played 16. Valanciunas played 12. LaRavia had 3 points and a couple rebounds. And Valanciunas had 6 points and 5 rebounds. Only other note, Isaac Jones had a nice offensive rebound and dunk when he got in at the end of the game. So good for him. But a very disappointing game because that was your most winnable game probably in a while. I mean, you play Chicago, I guess, coming up. But that was the most important game because the Suns are trying to chase us down in the standings, and they haven't been playing well. But now you go and you play Memphis, or at home you play Memphis. You have a 7-game homestand. And so that homestand includes the Cavs, who I think have won like 16 straight at this point. The Thunder, who it's a TNT game, which sucks because we want them to just sit all their players. But we play Boston and OKC on a back-to-back. That's bad. And the game before those 2 games is Milwaukee. That's no walk in the park. But it's Memphis, Cleveland, Chicago, Milwaukee, Boston, OKC, Portland. None of those are easy wins. Not a single one. Even Chicago, even Portland. Those 2 teams are doing a poor job of tanking right now. And the revenge game from Kevin Huerter is coming against Chicago. But this next game against Memphis just lost today, even though John Morant had like 40 plus. What I need from this game is a Jake LaRavia revenge game. But I think the scary part is John Morant is playing a lot better lately than he had been for a little bit there. But I think the key to every game going forward until the Kings can finally do it is just to defend the 3-point line. Just show some fight to actually try to defend the 3-point line here. And you know what? No. My actual key to the game is start Keon Ellis for Malik Monk. Because I am sick and tired of just hearing, in post-game pressers, oh, we got to be better. We got punked, we got to be better. Yeah. At the end of the day, it's not necessarily a thing about effort or anything like that. No individual guy has to play better defensively. I mean, they all need to play better, but it's about the personnel you put on the floor. So you got to at least try a change. Start Keon Ellis to try to not give up 50+% from the 3-point line, allowing 24 threes. So anyways, that is it for this episode of the Roll Report. I will be back on Monday to recap that game against the Grizzlies. So I'll see you guys then. Peace.